Live on Twitter. Show has not started yet. What we're doing is we're tapping people on the shoulder, letting them know we're about to go live. It's the Wednesday edition of the show, live on Twitter right now, J-Dubs. Eventually we'll be live on 15 Twitter pages, 15 Facebook pages. I love CVille, YouTube, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, the Fountain app, the Rumble app, anywhere you get your podcasting and social media platforms. We're live on YouTube now, J-Dubs. Viewers and listeners, like and share the show. We touched on this yesterday. I'm very excited to further spotlight what's going on at North Fork at the Research Park. Neil Williamson, the president of the Free Enterprise Forum, during yesterday's show shared a link, and I've really dug into it over the last 24 hours, and I'm going to relay some of the specs, the who, what, when, where, why of North Fork Research Park and the University of Virginia to you, the viewer and listener, because I think there's a lot of people that truly don't understand the magnitude of what's happening in northern Albemarle County. To put it in perspective, we're talking 562 acres, 3.7 million square feet of office space, and 628,000 people within a 60-minute drive. All those stories and more on today's edition of the I Love CVille show. We're live on Tim's Facebook page. Viewers and listeners, like and share the show. We'll get rocking and rolling on the program here in a matter of minutes. Significant football game this weekend with the University of Virginia football team facing Washington State on homecoming weekend. A lot to cover on the show. Live on the group there, J-Dubs. Things are looking good. I will confirm LinkedIn here in a matter of moments. We'll play a video from North Fork that I think you, the viewers and listeners, will find absolutely astounding, if not astonishing, the magnitude of what is being built quietly and right under our eyes. We'll spend 25 minutes with Tim Hess, friend of the program. The guy knows Charlottesville like the Pope knows holy water. He's an all-around good guy. He's the type of guy that you want to belly up to a bar with and just shoot the you-know-what. He is very good at what he does in his firm, Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes, has a fantastic office on the downtown mall, and is very excited to be a part of the 50-year anniversary of downtown Charlottesville and its pedestrian mall, a 50-year anniversary that is a significant milestone. Judah, things are looking quite good on our end. We have print, radio, and television watching the program. We have elected officials watching the program as we speak. If you're friends of Tim, give Tim some props. Let people know that he's doing a good job. And any comments you want to relay live on air to Tim, put them in the comment section, and I will mention them on the program today. Judah, we can rock and roll when you're ready.
Quiet on the scent.
Welcome to the I Love CVille show, guys. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you kindly for joining us in our studio from a fantastic location in downtown Charlottesville. We are right off the downtown mall, a mall that's going to celebrate its 50-year anniversary in a couple of months from now. 2026, the year, is the 50-year anniversary of a pedestrian mall that has not just significance in Charlottesville, not just significance in Central Virginia or the Commonwealth, but countrywide significance. There are very few pedestrian malls like the one we have in downtown Charlottesville. Our guest, when we welcome him, Tim Hess, a friend of the program, his firm, his family, excited to contribute to that 50-year downtown mall anniversary. Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes is a partner of the I Love CVille show. They have a fabulous office on the downtown mall, and their team is excited to be a part of this anniversary. We'll spend about 20 minutes, 25 minutes with Tim Hess, a guy who's lived in this community for nearly 20 years, 17 to be exact, and he's seen Charlottesville change tremendously in those 17 years, as have I. I've been here 25 years myself, started as a first-year student at the University of Virginia, went through a fantastic period of being a bachelor and closing down watering holes, and then an even better period, I know she's watching right now, of meeting my wife and having two fabulous children. So Charlottesville's a part of me, it's a part of my heart, it's where I kind of, matured from college student, most of the times matured into a dad and a parent and a husband. Before we get to Tim, I do want to give some props to Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes. They have a fantastic design center, fantastic office on the downtown mall. Anything hardscape related at your house, this is the firm to call. They can customize it. They can walk you through a plan. They take what seems complicated and make it strategic through fantastic communications, through ethics, and through proof of performance. Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes, your choice in Charlottesville for anything hardscape related at your house, ladies and gentlemen. Before we welcome Tim to the program, we touched on this briefly yesterday. North Fork and northern Albemarle County is just unbelievable, guys. 563 acres, ladies and gentlemen. 200 of those acres preserved as open space. We have 3.7 million square feet of office space, a fully master plan mixed use development, a home of an array of businesses, nonprofits, and startups. We've heard North Fork, we've heard Rivanna Station, Rivanna Futures, we've heard of this biotech sector and this defense sector that's in northern Albemarle County, and this economic driver for Albemarle County, city of Charlottesville, and the Central Virginia region. But it really hasn't been until I did a boatload of research, thanks to friend of the program, Neil Williamson, the president of the Free Enterprise Forum, that I realized the magnitude and significance of North Fork. And over the last 24 hours while doing that research, I've come across some video content that I'm going to relay to you with audio off over there, Judah. And I'll talk over, leave my mic on when you play that video, and I'll talk over it. And I want you guys to see what the University of Virginia is doing in Albemarle County, what biotechnology is doing in Albemarle County, what the defense sector is doing in Albemarle County, and how incredibly primed our community is for massive innovation and change. This is going to be the start of something special. And remember, AstraZeneca comes online in 2029, the $4.5 billion publicly traded company. They're going to invest $4.5 billion into a facility in northern Albemarle County. It comes online, that $4.5 billion facility in northern Albemarle, at the same time the Paul Manning Biotech Institute comes online on Fontaine Avenue. So from now until 2029, I equate it almost into that period of time where Thomas Jefferson was bellying up to a bar, maybe around Monticello somewhere, and talking about launching the University of Virginia. It's that kind of significance. Do we have that video ready to go, J-Dubs? You play that video of North Fork, and you viewers and listeners look at the screen while I talk over the video and offer you some commentary of what you're seeing. Cue that video up in 3, 2, 1. 563 acres at North Fork, folks. This is a mission to serve as a catalyst for the creation of research and business collaboration between the University of Virginia and the public and private sectors, benefiting the Commonwealth of Virginia, the Central Virginia region, and the nation as a whole. 3.7 million square feet of office space here, folks. 628,000 people within a 60-minute drive. This is a mixed-use development that has planned every detail, including a grocery, food and beverage option from Foods of All Nations, a full-service gymnasium, a stocked fishing pond. I mean, look at the screen. Look at what you're seeing here. Hiking trails 3 miles long, hiking and walking. The economic upside here for Albemarle County and for the region is significant. And remember, Glenn Youngkin, this past Friday, said we will have a biotechnology beltway that connects Rockingham County to Richmond, Virginia, with the engine driving that beltway, Albemarle County. Absolutely monumental what's happening, and something that should not be underestimated in the least. They have an autonomous shuttle that's running throughout North Fork, ladies and gentlemen. Legitimately an autonomous shuttle. The upside for startups, the upside for the supply chain on biotechnology, on innovation, on technology of any kind is absolutely noteworthy and one of national recognition. You have 20,000 square feet of amenity space at North Fork. You can drink coffee at coffee shops at North Fork. You can take HIIT classes, stroll along walking and hiking trails, and this is just the beginning. We're in the second inning of a 9-inning ball game. Absolutely fantastic. How much time left on that? We cleared it? Thank you. Just an absolutely significant project, ladies and gentlemen. Print, radio, and television watching the program. This is something that needs to be highlighted even more. Ginny Hu, thank you for the retweet. Supervisors in Albemarle County, Orange County, and Nelson watching. One city councilor watching the program as we speak right now. We will continue to discuss this impact throughout the week on the I Love CVille show as we are still digesting the news of AstraZeneca and its significance, investing $4.5 billion into Albemarle County, while publicly traded Eli Lilly invests $5 billion into Goochland County. You see what's happened? You have nearly $10 billion of bookend investment with Charlottesville and Albemarle County right in between Goochland and that Albemarle-Greene County line. Just a crazy story, a story of national significance. Judah, let's go to the studio camera and then a two-shot as we welcome Tim Hess to the program. And Tim, I'm excited to chat with you. I'm excited to discuss the evolution of Charlottesville and your nearly 20 years of living in this community. I find it unrecognizable from when I first got here. I will ask you that question. Before we go further, however, introduce yourself to the viewers and listeners.
Well, Jerry, happy to be here. Thank you, and very excited to be here as well and talking with you. So, so I've been in the Charlottesville region for almost 20 years now. Moved down from Ohio about that long ago, and I've been in the green industry pretty much my entire life. So my parents moved down here about 24 years ago, and so that's kind of what was the driver to kind of move to the area. And so I've worked for some very nice firms in and around the greater Central Virginia area through the years here, and I got courted here to Oak Valley by an old colleague of mine, Bruce Clay, who's the former owner, who has since retired. But we are kind of expanding under the new ownership with Warren Turner at the helm, and we're expanding here into the Charlottesville market. And we're excited to be here, and downtown Charlottesville is where we want to be, with the history of the downtown mall being in landscape architecture, Lawrence Halprin design. It's obviously a hardscape as well, and in a showcase for pavers themselves. So, we felt that was woven into the fabric of the community, and we could help, spread that design prowess here into the Charlottesville region as well. So happy to be here. But been here a while, and out and about. My wife and I, Suzanne, she works for the University of Virginia Community Credit Union, has been down here about the same time as you, 25 years. So we try to get out and about in the community quite a bit. Involved in some organizations in and around town too, like the Building Goodness Foundation and the Arc of the Piedmont and the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, things like that. So you might see us out at a fundraiser here and there from time to time as well.
I love it. You're getting props from a lot of people. John Blair giving you some love right now. You're getting love on Facebook right now from Brad Armstrong, all the way, I believe, from Bryan, Ohio. Gives Tim Hess the big what up. Tim Hess doing a great job already. Bill McChesney, Conan Owen, the owner of Sir Speedy of Central Virginia. He's watching the program. Talk to us about the evolution of Charlottesville from your standpoint. And I definitely want to highlight the downtown mall.
Yeah.
Because the significance of a pedestrian downtown mall is not just one of Central Virginia noteworthiness. This is national noteworthiness, especially as we head into the 50-year anniversary next year, in particular with your office now on the mall here. But first, the evolution of what you've seen in this community with nearly 20 years of living within it.
Yeah, Charlottesville has changed quite a bit. Obviously a lot of growth in and around the area and the region. We have seen kind of downtown Charlottesville, ebb and flow. I feel, when I first moved down here, the restaurant scene was pretty vibrant. That has kind of changed a little bit recently. A lot of businesses have kind of come and gone. There's been a lot of evolution of, I think, what the community views the downtown mall as and what its purpose is. We can't deny, the events that happened in 2017 on the downtown mall and how that has impacted. And I think really what I see here, Jerry, is a resurgence that's starting to happen, some gained interest. We need our urban cores. wherever they are. And for Charlottesville, this is a really unique and special place. There are only two public pedestrian malls left in the country, and this being one of them. And designed by world-renowned landscape architect Lawrence Halprin back in the 70s. His firm out of San Francisco really took a communal aspect of interviewing different people throughout the community and getting their input on the design of the mall, what they wanted to see. And the mall, since that point in 1976, has evolved. It has changed. It has grown significantly. We now have the amphitheater down at the end of the mall that wasn't there in the original design. We have some more corridor segments that have expanded. And it really has, changed, I think, what the community's vision, initially it was met with resistance. People did not want to close the mall off. They wanted traffic in there. And we see that success and its continuing draw for not just the community, but for a lot of visitors. We have a great tourism bureau here that really draws a lot of people to this area. And the first thing they talk about when I've had visitors here in the area is, we got to go to the downtown mall. We want to see what this is about, in lieu of also Monticello and all the history of UVA and everything like that. But, this is really a magnet, not only for businesses and the community, but for the greater tourism folks around the world. We have a very worldly university here that draws a lot of international people. I see a lot of different international people on the downtown mall, so it just has that vibe and that draw. And I'm hopeful that with this 50th anniversary and us being a small part of kind of re-injecting a business in the downtown, that we see more growth happening and more energy behind that as that movement starts to happen. So with the film festival coming up here, with Jody Kabasa and those guys do, for UVA Arts, I think that is a big pull and a big draw here. And it's always a fun time in the fall here to see all the vibrancy happening, all the people coming down, and the reinvestment in our restaurants and our hotels and different businesses down here. And so, it's ebbed and flowed. We've had some downturns in the downtown mall scene, and I know people talk a lot about different things, homelessness and crime. And, quite frankly, I don't see a whole lot of it. I mean, there are always issues in every major city. I was just up in Washington, D.C. and Georgetown, and you have those issues everywhere you go. But I think they're much smaller in the problems. I try to focus more on the positives. I think we've had some great established businesses down here for a really long time. We've got a great cultural scene downtown as well that draws a lot of people. And I think what we just need to do is grow and expand upon that. So we're happy to be a small part of that.
Tim Hess is crushing it right now. Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes is representing. Tough question for you. How do you make them all better?
I think
you're here all the time.
I am here all the time.
Yeah.
And having moved from Cincinnati, Ohio, I was part of one of the firms that I worked with was part of the Fountain Square resurgence. So the main plaza in downtown Cincinnati. If you are WKRP fans in Cincinnati, you might notice it on the opening credits there, the fountain and everything. And they kind of went through a little bit of a transition. And so the thing that I see successful with these urban core areas that have these public spaces that are resurging in and around the country as I visit them is really programming. I think we could do more in terms of programming. We have a great amphitheater at the end of the mall that Fridays after 5 is a popular event. I'd like to see more of those type of events. Maybe a family movie night, things like that. They do these different programmatic things to draw people downtown. It's a lot to ask just individual business owners alone to kind of create a vibe and draw people to their area. I think the city can be a partner through a private and public partnership. 3CDC is a big one in Cincinnati that is a public-private partnership that helps businesses as well as the public good to get some of those more pragmatic things that draw people down here and get people engaged and interested. The Christmas tree lighting that's going to be happening here that is so popular, and that's just one event. But I think we could grow and expand upon those so that there are even more things that folks and families feel comfortable coming down to the downtown mall and engaging in.
Vanessa Parkhill watching the program in Earlysville, Janice Boyce Trevelyan watching the show, a lot of folks in Richmond and Short Pump and Midlothian watching the show. I see Louisa, Orange, Green, and Crozet, the Ivy area on the program as well. Bill McChesney has this comment: Harry Omansky of the Young Men's Shop kept the west end of Main Street open from 2nd Street West for years. Absolutely right, Bill McChesney. I've been here 25 years. You've been here nearly 20 years. We call Charlottesville home. We're proud to call Charlottesville home. You said it best, and you're tailor-made for this. Your personality, your gift for gab, ebbs and flows for downtown Charlottesville. I think it's on the upside. I continue to think it's on the upside for the 50-year anniversary that's upcoming. I think the city is trying to figure out a hand-up solution for the houseless that are downtown. We have that $6.2 million shelter that's on the cusp of being purchased off the bypass. One of the things, and that's why I'm so impressed with Oak Valley, one of the things that's going to help revitalize the mall is the injection of business to downtown Charlottesville that not only creates the foot traffic for team members, but for clients, for lunch, for breakfast, for happy hour, for dinner, for concerts, all the above.
Absolutely, yeah. We're excited. We're just opening up our design center down here, but that's the goal. That's one of the things that drew us to the space, is that we want to bring clients down here. We want them to engage in the downtown environment, and it's centralized. We have clientele all around the surrounding area in Central Virginia, and so it's a central point that people can come to. It's convenient. And really showcase what we can do for them, but also take in the culture of the city as well as they're down here. So I think that's the added benefit of reinvestment into your urban core. And that's something. Not knocking anything around surrounding areas, but a strip mall might not be able to provide that cultural experience and just that kind of wow factor when you're bringing clientele down here. That's why a lot of landscape architecture firms, urban planners are down here. That's where they want to be, and there is a networking effect with that as well. So all the other businesses down here, we do business to business, and that is just part of location and proximity. And I think that's some of the hidden benefits that a lot of people don't take into account when they're thinking about different locations. We kind of scoped out a few different locations, Jerry, before we chose where we did, and it just seemed like the right fit. And I think with all of the things coming up with the downtown mall, I fully agree with you. I think it's on a upswing here. I think there's a lot of energy coming in here. There's more reinvestment happening, and I think we just need to build on that energy a little bit. I know there's naysayers out there. There always will be.
Of course.
But I think come down if you haven't been down in 5 years or something like that. Spend a Saturday afternoon, see what it's like, because I think you're going to be a little bit surprised as to what you might find. And so certainly in the businesses here that have stuck out, like the Men's and Boys Shop, like some of the other, restaurants and things here, the Nook and everything. I mean, they've been around for a long time. They're not going anywhere. It's just building more momentum, and there's going to be newer businesses coming in and newer entertainment venues and things like that. So I think it's really an exciting time. Just seeing. I was just over at the new Argentinian steakhouse the other night.
How was that?
Didn't have dinner, just had a cocktail.
Okay.
But it's a lovely scene.
This is in the glass building?
It is in the glass building, and so I think there's a lot of energy just starting off with. And you're kind of seeing it. COVID was hard for the restaurant industry, very hard. And so I think it's encouraging to see some new players come onto the scene here. Charlottesville is a foodie town, and that's what it's really known for. So that kind of excites me. And just, a lot of that energy coming in here. I think the more that we're getting a lot of newcomers into Charlottesville. You know, you and I now, unfortunately, are probably the old timers.
Absolutely, we're the OGs. Absolutely.
But I think
wild when that's the case.
You're getting a lot of people moving to the region and stuff, and you know, first discovering this. You know, that's exciting. You know, you mentioned the AstraZeneca plan and some of the outlying investors. That's going to bring a lot of housing, a lot of jobs here, a lot of people that are going, you know, residual income that they're going to want to spend somewhere. And I think Charlottesville and the downtown area is perfectly placed for that. You know, for that timeline, I think it's only going to be an added benefit for the city.
You are a technician and an expert with hardscapes and with design and with execution. Give us the X's and O's of what you see technical wise with the downtown mall, one of 2 pedestrian downtown malls in the nation.
Well, there's a lot of thought that goes into that design there, and you know, you get a group of designers in a room, Jerry. I'll be honest with you, they're going to have about 150 different opinions. So my personal, you know, thoughts on it, and having studied Lawrence Halprin when I was in architecture school back.
You studied him?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
When I was in landscape architecture school at Ohio State, the Ohio State University.
There we go.
Excuse me. You know, we studied, you know, you have to learn about history and landscape architecture and things like that. And so Halprin's whole approach was very, very holistic. And again, this was the early 70s. There was a lot of that kind of, you know, cultural hippie movement, if you will, a little bit left over. And he really took that holistic approach. Him and his team, it wasn't just him alone. There was a whole team of designers from Halprin and Associates. And they were also involved in the resurfacing of the downtown mall and some of the expansion pieces of that as well. But, you know, they really just took this whole approach of, you know, we need to make it accessible. We need to make it easy for people to walk to and from. And if you notice a lot of the gradients up and down the downtown mall, there is actually some grades. They're at a very gentle slope. A lot of what he introduced to, which was a little bit, you know, kind of revolutionary at the time, are things like injecting white noise. So you notice a lot of the fountains that are up and down the mall. Planting large willow oak trees, you know, to provide shade canopy, and a lot of people were kind of against that. It's going to block our storefronts and things. And so a lot of those little things, the curb and gutter detail that runs up there, so it's not just a hard curb, you know, it's something very gentle so that people can roll a cart over it or walk right down it if they need to. A lot of those little details, the ratio of the brick pavers that they use is a custom brick paver. They had to recreate that when they redid the mall years ago here, and that was a special mold that they had to do for that specific ratio of brick size there. So a lot of different things. The herringbone pattern. You know, people don't really think underfoot a paver pattern can affect kind of traffic flow, but it actually slows people down. And that was the intent that Halprin wanted to do, is kind of slow people down instead of rushing through, you know, a corridor. If we just had a straight concrete sidewalk, you know, you're just kind of get to point A to point B at the quickest. It's more of take in, meander a little bit. That's what the idea of the benches, the original benches that were placed all over. I'd love to see those come back, by the way, if the city's listening right now. But that was the idea, to create a public gathering space so people can commune and enjoy each other's company. And I think we can get back to that a little bit more. I think that's the idea there of bringing community together, is the whole precipice of what that design was. And he started by bringing the community in on the design process. And that's kind of what I try to do, you know, in my design process with clients. You know, it might not be as large of a community, but I want to, you know, bring people in from their perspective. What is the functionality you're looking for in this space? What are you trying to accomplish here? What are your goals? What are you envisioning here a little bit more? It's very easy as a designer to say, you know, I like this and I'll do this, and here's your design, and take it or leave it. We really try to take a little bit more of a holistic approach when we initiate with a design client.
Cora Guthrie giving you some props from Ontario right now. We got Ontario in the house.
I know. Well, my wife's family is from northern northern Canada, so it's not surprising.
Giving you some love right now. Viewers and listeners, put your comments in the feed. We'll relay them live on air. Here's an interesting comment that's come from Ivy. Love the guest, Jerry. Ask him how he would improve the mall from a design, engineering, or hardscape standpoint.
Well, I think a couple small, immediate improvements, and I know it's very controversial with the business owners down here. I think having thoroughfare crossovers after 2017 is problematic.
Okay. So you say close down, that would be 2nd and 4th Streets.
Yeah, and I know the business community is probably going to backlash at me on that a little bit, but we've had a young woman killed, unfortunately, in an unfortunate circumstance. But I see when cars are driving through there, especially we have a lot of out-of-towners.
Yep.
We have a lot of visitors here. They don't really know how to navigate it. People on the mall don't know how to navigate it. I think that could be a new expansion of the pedestrian mall area to provide not only extra security, but just a little bit more peace of mind. We could still have loading and unloading zones for those businesses if needed. I think from a standpoint of what else could be added or changed with the downtown mall, I would like to see more of the public seating come back into the fold. That was part of the original design. I know the city leases out a lot of restaurant space in the middle, but really that wasn't the original intent. I'm not opposed to that, but how are we laying that out? How are we programming some of those spaces in regard to the original design? Because that was really more of a communal space, not a privatized space in some of those cases. Not to say you can't have both. I think in terms of programming, and I've been to several cities, across the nation and up in Canada too. A DORA district, an open container
Amen,
DORA
brother.
district.
Seems so obvious.
On the downtown mall. The infrastructure is pretty much there. Kind of goes back to those cross streets being problematic, but
He's talking designated outdoor refreshment area. That's what DORA stands for.
Yep.
Basically, a portion of the mall that could be allocated where you could enjoy a beer, a wine, or a cocktail, buy it from a bar, and walk with your friends, by yourself, up and down the mall. It
Yep.
makes so much sense to me.
and we could have designated hours of that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are worried about crime and things like that. I don't see it in the cities that I visit that have done this. My hometown, Toledo, Ohio, where I'm from, started an experiment program about 5, 6, 7 years ago, and it has just been nothing but a success. And it's in and around a minor league ballpark and things like that. Families come down. I think it's just the convenience of being able to, okay, let's grab a wine or a cocktail and just take a stroll. So I think that could be possibly something that differentiates the downtown mall from other areas, around the county and things like that, and makes it a little bit more unique. There are other ideas with that as well. I mean, Charlottesville has a uniqueness about it, and they want to kind of keep it, they say in Austin, keep it weird, right?
Yeah.
We like to keep it a little strange here in Charlottesville too, and that's part of the character of place. When you're designing a space, that's the character of place that you're trying to encapsulate there. So I think, recognizing that and building upon that a little bit can help as well.
You're crushing it. You're crushing it. Middleton, Ohio, about 35 miles north of Cincinnati, created the first DORA in Ohio history.
Mm-hmm.
And Middleton, Ohio, we talked about this on the I Love CVille show years ago, is absolutely reaping the incremental tax benefits of this designated outdoor refreshment area. You can find this on ilovecville.com. In 2021, the Ohio Department of Commerce reported a 300% increase in active DORAs across the state. The Middleton DORA is open 7 days a week from noon to midnight. $1 charge for a bracelet that allows customers to drink, walk, and enjoy Middleton while patronizing locally owned businesses. And it is just massively impacting the economy in safe and healthy ways while infusing this experiential destinational mindset to come back downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Something needs to be, I love the words you use, programming.
Mm-hmm.
It's as much about perceived safety. It's as much about perceived parking, and we have plenty of parking here, folks. This conundrum of not finding parking is just a myth We have plenty of parking down here, but it's also about programming down here. I love your ideas. I love that Oak Valley has kind of planted their flag in downtown Charlottesville. I love that you're doing it right before the 50-year anniversary.
So are we.
It's absolutely amazing. You're doing it on one of the most impressive hardscapes in the Commonwealth, if not the country, literally, not hyperbole, but literally. Put in perspective for the viewers and listeners, and many are giving you props. I'll relay that props here in a matter of moments, what you guys are doing at Oak Valley.
Yeah, so we're working on lots of exciting projects. We're primarily residential-based design. We are a custom design build firm, so we really, each one of our projects is pretty unique to one another. We're not kind of a rubber stamp, chuck in a truck sort of thing or anything like that. So we design things like pool surrounds, installations, spas, outdoor kitchens. In addition to hardscapes, retaining walls, things like that, we do softscapes as well, landscape designs. We will do some water features as well. So we're kind of if you would think of it, the outdoor general design build contractor. So if you work with a general contractor and a designer for your home, when you're building a house, we kind of take that to the exterior environment. So we partner with a lot of different design firms as well too. So we will build some of their ideas, but we do like to work with clients one-on-one, get their design vision. We try to work within a budget range that they're comfortable with as well. Sometimes that includes a phased project, so we might not be something we do all at one shot, but we can do it incrementally over a course of a few years. So we're really, expanding our offering of services. We have 2 dedicated crews just to the Charlottesville market alone right now. And so we have about 5 additional in Richmond that we can pull from as well. So, they've been operating in Richmond for about 15 years. We've had a lot of success there, partnering with some of the folks that we partner with. And so we just thought this was a right time to come here. And with my Charlottesville connections, our ownership felt that was kind of a expanding area we could reach into and hopefully bring our expertise here to Charlottesville as well. There's a lot of great companies in and around Charlottesville. We just want to be one of those that you can choose from as well.
Cora Guthrie giving you props. Aaron Tupper says, "Wowzer, Tim, you're a rock star." You got comments coming in from multiple countries, different states. I'll get to local comments here in a matter of moments. Taylor Grubb says, "You absolutely rule." Kara, who does a great job with Ting, she's watching the program right now. She says, "Tim Hess has the vision to recreate any space into a beautiful gathering area, and he's an awesome neighbor as well."
Thanks, Kara.
Giving you some props on the program. I am impressed by what you guys are doing because I am impressed with you first. You have that gift of probably being able to make a lot of friends anywhere you go. Likability, affability. You also are someone who follows through on what he wants to do and what the team wants to do.
Sure.
Fantastic communicator. And the hardscape, as someone that has 2 young boys and a wife and is spending more time at home because we have a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old, the time outside is precious. It's almost a sanity for us.
Yeah.
Especially with young kids being outside.
Yeah.
So the value proposition of hardscape and the improvement of what it does to a house is not just monetary value, it's emotional value, quality of life value.
You're absolutely right. A lot of folks sometimes will begin a conversation when we're talking about what they're envisioning for their house, and sometimes we get people that say, what's the resale value of this? What will it add to the value of my home? And there is resale value, and there's different information. You're in the real estate business that agents use and things like that kind of return on investment that people are looking for. And I generally tell people it really matters to you the most. And the point that I make with them is, let's say it's a 30-40% return on investment that you get in added value to your home. But to the next potential home buyer, let's just say it's something like a swimming pool or a cottage garden. For them, that might be, a hazard something they have small kids and they're deathly afraid of water. Or a cottage garden might look like a weed patch to the next person that's not into gardening. So really when you first initially, I don't care what you're designing, it could be interior design, it could be designing a home or an ancillary building at your home and your farm or whatever. You really want to think about that. What am I benefiting out of it? What am I going to use it for? Because that's really the intent here. If you're just doing it to try to add value, I think you're going to probably fall short a little bit on those goals. So really, you need to start with your intent first, and what you're going to be using it for, and how long you're going to be using it for. We saw a surge during COVID because everybody was stuck at home. They're not knowing what to do. They're not spending money on vacations. So let's reinvest in our homes. And, 2-year backlog during those times of, just getting things like swimming pools in or some of the projects we were working on. That's pretty unheard of. But people really were doing it for their purpose, just like you're saying. We want to extend our living room outside. We want to extend the living season in the outdoors. And that's really where you want to start with, if that's what you're enjoying. I design a lot of outdoor kitchens, Jerry, and I tell people all the time, and these things can get pretty elaborate. I mean, $30, $40, $50, $60,000 just for the kitchen alone. And I really start the conversation with, how often do you like to cook? How often do you like to cook outside? Because that's going to drive maybe some of those appliances that we incorporate into that, or what investment level you want to put into that. It's just like anything. Someone might value a BMW more. Some might value a Chevy.
Totally get it. I totally get it. This one comes in from Lauren and Ivy. Can you put into perspective the time, the process, and the costs of doing an outdoor hardscape in the backyard that may include kitchen, fire pit, and seating area?
Sounds like someone's looking for a free estimate there, Jay.
I mean, that's what it says right there.
Well, I can put in, sight unseen here. That can vary widely, I'll be honest with you, because each project is very unique. There are 3 things that affect every project we work on, and I start with this conversation. One is the site conditions. The site that you have, maybe it has a very steep grade, and we have to do some retaining wall work if we're trying to do that. That can affect a lot of things. Maybe there's a lot of trees in the area. Maybe we have to demo, an existing space or an old structure or something like that. So those things are pretty static. The site is the site. We can't do much with that until we come up with a solution. The second is the size, and that's usually dictated by things like functionality and things the client is kind of dictating. What do I want to do in the space? How many people am I entertaining? How much furniture do I want on the space? These are the things that people generally don't think a whole lot about until after the fact, and that's where we get kind of the buyer's remorse, if you will, the regret of, man, I wish I made it bigger, or gosh, this thing is way too big because it's just my wife and I, and we didn't really need all the space, so it was kind of wasted money. I don't want to design something too large, but I don't want to design something too small. And we need to keep in mind the functionality and circulation. The third is the material selection. Lots of different materials we can choose from. Natural stone, travertine, bluestone, brick, concrete pavers, stamped concrete, all kinds of different palettes of materials we can use. And that's generally dictated, a lot to us by the client's preferences. And so those all affect what a project cost can be. So you need to kind of maybe pre-plan some of that. Most of my clients I work with, I try to get them to give me some feedback first before I even put not so much pencil to paper as much as I used to anymore, but before I'd sit behind the CAD station, and start working on their design, because if they're thinking about those things a little bit more holistically, then we can tailor that design specifically to their needs, rather than just kind of taking a shot in the dark and hoping that, okay, well, you need this, whatever. That's where the regrets are. So if you're kind of in the early process, I would say to anybody listening out there of thinking about planning for an outdoor space or, a landscape or any kind of space, to be quite honest with you, start thinking about those things first. What do I intend to use this for? Is it a large family reunion once a year that we might have 20 or 30 people on there? Or is it, more, we're going to have 5 to 6 people in the neighborhood regularly here? as we're getting into the fall, the fire pit season, we're getting a lot of calls about fire features, outdoor heating features as well. People want to extend that season a little bit longer. And, first thing I tell them, when they're thinking about an idea, or maybe they saw something on Pinterest or Houzz or some of these sites, is, well, what's the driver behind this? Why do we need a fireplace versus a fire pit? How many people do you want to gather around this? What options, what do you know about these things? Gas versus wood, different things like that. That can be just a simple question that people might not have put a lot of thought and effort into. And that helps a designer in any field. The more that you kind of have specifics as to, this is what my intent is, this is what I want to see the space is, that gives the designer some guidelines a little bit to then weave their creativeness back and forth and spin that in such a way so that it's both functional but aesthetically pleasing at the same time.
Dude, this guy is so good at this. Tailor-made for the talk show format. Interesting question here that's come from the mayor of McIntyre on McIntyre Road. He says this: ask your guest what he would do with the Dewberry Hotel skeleton.
Wow. Well, we want to open controversy here, huh? Well,
that's pretty close. That's across from your office.
It's catty corner. Yeah, it is catty corner. It's really a shame. And I think it's a shame that the Commonwealth of Virginia doesn't have more legality power to push and persuade this. In Ohio, we have eminent domain laws that could have taken this back years ago. I was actually involved in a large commercial project in Cincinnati near the Kenwood Mall. That similar thing happened, and luckily we got out of it. Large contract, multi-story, multi-mixed use building set on the edge of I-71 and sat vacant for about 8 to 9 years before another developer came in and eventually did that. I think there's a lot from my inside resources and talking to various engineers, there's a lot of issues with that and trying to resurrect it as is. My fear would be structural soundness and things like that. I think there's also the initial design. There was some errors there as well. So
with ceiling height,
yeah. HVAC issues. Yeah. With that, there's a lot of that. And
is it a teardown?
I think you would have to do either a very, very heavy major retrofit, which if I'm in the developer's chair, I'm probably not investing that much for a refit. Yeah. I think it does have to be probably completely redone.
So you're just buying the dirt at that point?
Yeah. I think you're probably getting a nice expensive piece of real estate at that point now. Right. But I think I would like to see something happen to that site. Same. I think it's so significant. It's right in the heart of the downtown mall. I think there are things that could come in there, and it's like all things. It takes money, and it takes someone that's will take the risk to do that. But I would hope there's plenty of folks in the community here, and I know some of them personally that would take a gamble of trying to invest that. I think getting Mr. Dewberry on board might be a different story, but we'll leave that as it may. But I would like to hope to see something redeveloped there. I know there's been a few hotel chains that have taken a gander at it. It might be something along that. It might be, the UVA Foundation or whoever, I don't know, but looking at a piece there that I think it's so significant a spot, we have to do something there to progress, because eventually it's going to become a structural issue.
It's going to be a hazard.
The city's going to have to deal with.
If not already.
Yeah.
If not already. And the crazy thing is, and we've seen it from the 8th floor of the building across the way, there's folks that are like climbing into this structure and graffitiing the building at the top levels or the roof of the building.
Yeah, that would be a tragedy.
I mean, an absolute tragedy.
Yeah, and having come from a Rust Belt city and lived around Rust Belt areas for about half my life, you hear about those type of things where it's a safety thing, and then unfortunately someone falls, and kills themselves or gets injured severely, and that's what I would hate to see. I think they've done their best to try to secure it up, but you can only do so much.
Right.
And I think we really need to and I think that kind of maybe goes back to that public-private partnership. Maybe the city can help out in some way. Maybe there's a tax incentive, an abatement, or something like that could incentivize.
I think that's what he's looking for.
So we'll see. If that's positive. There's positives and negatives to all of that. Maybe a portion of that could be a public space as well. So I think there's that kind of push and pull dynamic. I know there's been a lot of people working on it. A lot of people have taken, stabs at trying to come to some agreement on that. But I think, that's going to be a difficult one if we don't have collaboration. I think that's where it's going to have to start there and start with the ownership and then, who can we find partners with to collaborate with, either public or privately.
This interview legitimately has exceeded my expectations. You follow the storylines locally extremely well. Brian Harris, formerly of the Arc of the Piedmont, now the executive director of the Ronald McDonald House, has given you big time props on the show as we speak. He's a great guy.
Yeah, love Brian. Yep.
Comments continue to come in. Can he highlight some of the best commercial designs that he has seen in Charlottesville or Albemarle County locally, and why? And then I'll piggyback on that question. That one comes from Crozet. I'll piggyback on that. What are your thoughts on how Stonefield was executed?
Yeah, Stonefield's an interesting exercise. I think there are definite wins in the Stonefield development. I think there's some misses too.
Yeah.
I think, we're now seeing the construction of a pedestrian bridge to kind of connect, and there's controversy there to parking lots, but right. I think there needed to be some more pedestrian connection one way or another initially. I think the green space there is severely underutilized. I think that could be done up a little bit more for programming and things like that. They are doing some of that programming as well. I think it's unfortunate that we haven't seen, a full 100% capacity within the development since its inception. People can point fingers. That's the rent cost, that location, the business environment. We've lost some great restaurants in there. We've retained some great ones. My wife and I, full disclosure, frequenters of Burton's quite a bit. So
Burton's crushes it.
Yeah, they do. But I would like to see some of that fill in a little bit more before we move on to more development. I think that's one thing both Charlottesville and Albemarle County could do better of is what are we doing to do the infill? And if you're going back to some of those other major cities, that's what their focus is on right now. How do we infill what we have? Not just keep expanding, So there's a lot of Class A real estate around, Jerry, as you probably know. There's a lot of lots and empty lots within the core of the city and around the surrounding area that could be infilled as well. Before we just kind of sprawl out further, because, eventually it'll all be up 29 and maybe south on 29 and, heading east on 64. But I'd like to see a little bit more of that reinvestment there. Now, back to the original question, from commercial design standpoint, there's a lot of highlights of some great designs in and around the city. From a commercial development standpoint, we talked about one in Bel Air, right next to Bel Air Market, that I happened to be part of about 6-7 years ago. You're seeing that out, with Salvage Brewing moving into the old John Deere. Yeah.
The salvage site crushed it.
Yeah. So
part of the program, Hunters.
Yeah.
Hunter Craigs.
Yeah. So
he listens to the show, by the way.
Well, hello, Hunter. Yeah. But we partnered together with a different firm I was working with at the time, and just little details on that site, particularly permeable paving, in and around the parking lot.
What's that mean?
So there are pavers that actually introduce water, so we don't have to have drainage runoff.
Okay.
So in Charlottesville, there are taxes for impervious surfaces for certain commercial businesses. So you can lessen that, not only from an economic standpoint, but also from an environmental standpoint, that we're retaining the stormwater as much as possible on site. So we're actually redirecting the water down rather than shedding it off. So a lot of that parking area in and around that site was designed that way. With bioswale basins and things like that as well. I think, I was also part with another firm in the redevelopment of Boar's Head at the front main, in there, and they did again another great example of permeable pavement. A lot of the landscape there is native. A lot of that installation was great.
Yeah.
And so there's and it's it's one of our corridors that really highlights the area, obviously from a tourism standpoint. I think there are things out in Crozet, that are happening right now that are interesting. Lots of great different designs, from a landscape architecture standpoint. What the university is doing in their initiatives from grounds, are really trying to take much more of a sustainable. If you've been to the Dell, which was done a few years back,
Used to be guys' basketball courts, completely different right now.
Yeah. So
It's
all
gorgeous.
of that engineering corridor, all around that, I think there's some really great lead designs and more organic designs happening there. The push that they're doing out Ivy Road right now, I think, provides a lot of opportunity for some really great design.
Huge opportunity there.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot going on. Sometimes you need to stop and kind of take a look to really appreciate it. But there are some really great design firms in this town that have worked on some of these projects. There are some out-of-town design firms that have worked on these projects, and they've put a lot of thought and effort into this. So I'm happy to see with some of the new development and growth, there is a consciousness of trying to be somewhat sustainable, of trying to think progressively in terms of what we're doing design-wise for the future, so that, our biggest pollution, a lot of people don't realize from a hard, solid waste standpoint, is construction debris. So if we design something to sustain 50, 100 years rather than, say, 20, that's a win right there. So I think what we're seeing with some of the projects going in the ground right now, I see much more of that long-term vision rather than kind of a short-lived vision.
Last question for you. Comments are coming in, and we're going to get to those comments, guys, as much as we can. We wanted to go 25 minutes with Tim. We're now 50 minutes because the dude is absolutely crushing this interview right here. This question comes in. This is from Crozet. Sounds like your guest, Tim, is very well traveled. Based on his travels, what does Charlottesville most resemble to him? What other cities and why?
That's a good question. My wife and I were out. Her family had a cabin in Wyoming, and we made a stop in Fort Collins, Colorado. And I think Charlottesville and Fort Collins have a lot of similarities in terms of size. They also have pedestrian mall area as well, just like Boulder, Colorado. It's a little smaller, but I think that has a lot of similarities to Charlottesville. Been to British Columbia, and there's some towns up that way, smaller towns that way that have a lot of the same feel in the Pacific Northwest as well. I would probably go back to my Ohio roots. You brought up Millersburg, but there are a lot of small, mid-range sized towns. Lebanon, Ohio, I'll give a little shout out to my best friend that's a city and regional planner there. They do a lot of these programming things really well, the Brookline streets and things like that. So scope and scale, I think there's a lot of examples of what Charlottesville has. But Charlottesville is unique. We're not Austin, Texas, where we're trying to grow as rapidly and vertically. I was just in Austin about a year ago and kind of somewhat disappointed that a lot of the low-slung scale stuff is kind of going away. So we've retained a lot of that. A lot of the areas around the country, I'll give it to like Over the Rhine in Cincinnati. It was a great walkable and an urban resurgence. You talk about 10, 15 years ago, just an urban wasteland, and that public-private partnership that I was talking about with 3CDC really regenerated it, and it's totally different, and it's like a campus connector corridor with the university up the road and everything like that. So there's a lot of similarities that way too. Cincinnati as a whole is a bigger city, but some of those corridors and areas around there feel very, very similar to to Charlottesville.
This interview is fantastic. Tim Hess, guys. Close with this. Let them know how they can get in touch with you, Oak Valley. You guys are anywhere and everywhere online, and I think you would happily connect with people.
Absolutely, yeah. So, oakvalleylh.com is our website. That's a very easy way to reach out. Tim at oakvalleylh.com is a great way to direct connect with me as well. You can call our office off the website as well. They can put you in touch with me. And then we're obviously on social media and things like that as well. Or if you just see me in and around town, come up, say hi. Love to talk and chat with strangers all the time. So,
thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the time.
It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
A lot
It's
of fun,
blast.
guys. Tim Hess, guys, Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes. He was fantastic. Thank you, Tim. Guys, you see what the show is about. It's about introducing you to people that have big ideas and have a lot of experience that can make the community a better place. And I think Tim absolutely embodies that. We'll close the show on a couple other topics. And the last topic I want to close the show, Judah, as you offer a little instruction here, is the lawsuit that's in the works, guys, for UVA Health and their former leaders. We'll talk about that lawsuit on tomorrow's show. It's a doozy, and it's now getting some attention. The type of attention I think that we anticipated it getting when this UVA Health trouble started brewing last year, if not longer. We'll talk about that on the I Love CVille show tomorrow. We'll continue to dig deeper into Rivanna Station, Rivanna Future, North Fork, and what's expanded, what's expected on that part of Albemarle County. From now until 2029, I think we have a pretty significant level of positive momentum for this community. We'll highlight the school board forum that happened, the school board forum that took place last night. We'll air the highlights and lowlights of the school board forum from last night on the show as well. We'll highlight some of the partners that make the program possible, along with Oak Valley Custom Hardscapes, Conan Owen of Sir Speedy of Central Virginia, Judah, locally owned and operated. Conan Owen and Sir Speedy of Central Virginia are who our firm uses for our signage needs, window decals, signage, the banners behind us, direct mail. Conan Owen, Sir Speedy of Central Virginia, locally owned and operated. The guy is absolutely a wizard when it comes to any application for your logo. And then, of course, our friends at Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, the Vermillion family, class act, gentlemen, CharlottesvilleSaniTarySupply.com, and located on High Street. 61 years of business, Charlottesville Sanitary Supply. 5 generations of Vermillions in Albemarle County, and the business is 3 generations strong. Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, the best of the best. That's the show. Tim Hess crushed it. When you see Tim Hess around this community, or you need some custom hardscape work, Tim Hess and Oak Valley are who you call. The guy is what you see is what you get. A likable, straightforward, affable guy. Judah Wickhauer behind the camera. Thank you kindly for joining us on the I Love CVille show.